Alright, hello everybody. This is Dine on Nikes again, continuing my series of my 4-hour, 47-minute completion of Jurassic difficulty. I believe that where we left off, I was about 1.5 park stars, something like that. Still working towards 2 stars. I just finished incubating all of the Draco Rex, and need to start churning out some other dinosaurs. And got the Velociraptor Genome. Now, I usually, as I mentioned before, I don't breed any dinosaurs until I get to 100% genome. That's just kind of my strategy to not leave any money on the table. There, I started incubating an Ankylosaurus and then realized I forgot to modify it with the Aggressive Instincts 1.0. I put that every defense gap, every attack gap. It does increase attack and defense, but of course in Jurassic you almost never are going to have dinosaurs fight each other. It's just the purpose of that is that Aggressive Instincts adds, each instance adds 10% to the total. 10% dinosaur rating, I should say. That's 10% dinosaur rating to the total. And only adds 8% costs. Most of the other modifications, they're not very cost effective. They cost more than what they add. So in that scenario, you're better off just building more dinosaurs than you are modifying them. Looking through my research, I typically do this every time I start again. I'd taken a break and came back to the game a couple days later, and so here I just want to make sure that I remember where I picked up. Notice that I hadn't done any improved output 2.0 or outage protection 2.0. I'll put all of those on my power stations in a little bit to augment. I think it's a little bit more cost effective to do that than it is to build additional power plants. Although I will say I have not done any math on that. Again, that's another intuitive guess. I really like that management view because it shows you just where you need to put additional shops if you need them in order to make your guests happy. Doing all right in terms of profit at this point. And my cash flow is pretty high. Usually when my cash flow gets that high, gets close to $2 million, that means that I'm not incubating enough dinosaurs. And so what I'm doing here is I have this thought that, okay, I've got too much money. I want my money to be doing something, not just sitting in a bank. And if I invest the money in dinosaurs, then I end up earning more money. It's like paying interest. If the money is just sitting there, then it does not do anything for me. So this little kind of corner, nook area in the bottom right, in the southeast corner of the park, is where I'm going to put a pen full of Velociraptors and Ceratosauruses. Anytime I get that error message there, insufficient capacity, I'm pretty happy. That means that they brought back a lot of extra minerals. Now I start the process of releasing and tranking and moving all of these Ankylosauruses down to the pen just north of where the Draco Rex is. And typically, you can see I do have a sickness, and what I do, instead of driving all the way down myself and taking that 20 seconds, I continue to extract fossils, run expeditions. I just set the Jeep to drive down there, and then if I do want to take over manually, then I can always do that once the Jeep gets down there. But there's a lot of little minor ways that you can improve your your processes. You know, I release all 4 dinosaurs, and then I set the ACU to trank the first one, and then I come back and, you know, I'll do other stuff in the meantime. I usually just won't sit there and wait for the second, third, fourth to come out to get the ACU on top of it. Usually we'll try to multitask as much as I can. I did not have any type of background playing, you know, StarCraft or any other actions per minute types of game, but if you do have that, then you probably are going to be a little bit faster, maybe a lot faster than me in a lot of these little tasks.
Let me tell you something that I myself have heard.
All right, I get this Cell Draco Rex with rating 37 contract. Sometimes those are all right. And here you see I've got 3 6 dinosaurs already. So once I got 3, one guy's just not going to be able to handle that. So I set up another, create another ranger team and send them back down there as well. But these, the cell dinosaur you can see right here, I'm looking at, well, I got to get the Crichtonsaurus going first. But if you get cell dinosaur with X rating and you're not at 100% genome, you're in the process of extracting, that's typically a good mission, because you end up, the rating goes up as the authenticity goes up. Whereas if you get that mission with something that's already at 100%, that's usually not quite as good. The reason is you got to add modifications. In this case, I believe I remember from the game, I think it's this case. I can't get high enough with the Draco Rex in order to make it worthwhile. Or no, maybe I do. Maybe it's a different mission. But you got to just play it by ear. You know, if it's cost effective to, you know, breed a dinosaur and then trank it and sell it, then, you know, sometimes that is a good play. Other times you want to release it and add to your pen. I've got 8 Draco Rex, so I don't have any room, and they've got a minimum social, so I can't just stick it with someone else. So I either am going to complete the mission by incubating and then selling immediately, or I'm going to end up canceling the mission.
If you can handle all the chaos of the facilities and the dinosaurs, then really, how tough could completing this new contract be for a person of your talents?
So anytime you see the little helicopter sitting there in the expedition center, that means that it's not running a mission. It's not running an expedition. And I try to keep them going as much as I possibly can. So that's just kind of a nice visual trigger in case I forget the alert. I don't see the alert in the top right hand corner that says fossils ready to be extracted. I can always just take note of the helicopter there and then go ahead and keep that gravy train rolling. That's a lot of your income, especially at this point in the game. So I've already got 2 of accuracy, and it's very easy. It doesn't cost any money to remove a modification from my ACU center there. So that's what I do, and then just add it back. It was $20,000, and I earned some nice money and some nice reputation. Here again, I got the mass release. I set up the ACU. I come back and check in with the sick dinosaurs. Make sure that my guys got enough to do. Actually, I guess I did not create a second ranger team at this point. I do at some point. I end up with 3 by the end of the game. Now, some people do like to trank their own or cure their own dinosaurs. It's very situational for me. At the beginning of the game, I do it more than I do at the end of the game. As you progress, you end up having more and more things that demand your time. And yeah, I figure it might be a little bit of extra time, a little bit of extra money, but that's still a worthy cost to have the AI take care of that than it is to to try to have to do everything myself.
Requiring collection. Asset collection request received.
Once you've played enough, you kind of get a feel for what the minimum grass area and what the minimum forested area is for all of the different dinosaurs. And you know, it's the ankylosaurs, the crichtonsaurs. They're pretty easily satisfied. They don't actually need anywhere near the amount of space that they've got near that hotel in the southwest corner. But that's all right. A little extra space certainly won't hurt them. All right, so I did end up incubating a Draco Rex, and the purpose of that was to sell it as soon as I let it out to complete that contract. Sinoceratops, here we go. This is a good dinosaur. This is very cost efficient. Also looks cool.
Heading to collect the asset.
That's impressive work. Yo, it's your buddy Isaac here.
I do have to keep track of kind of where my reputation is, just to make sure that I don't get sabotaged. I think that happens a couple of times when I lose track of it. But in general, you want to keep everything as evenly matched as possible. Not all missions are the same. Some missions, you know, especially some of the financial ones that, you know, increase revenue to, you know, whatever. Those often benefit two different areas, and there's no negative, but they're very slight bumps in reputation. Whereas, you know, the typical ones, of course, are a little bit of a bump in reputation for one, and then two kind of minor dings for the other two.
Setting additional task.
Of course, everything that I'm doing here is you know, just pretty typical.
En route to collect the asset.
Picking the right dinosaurs, you know, that's all kind of predetermined. I already know which ones I like to you know, to incubate, and I know which ones I don't like to incubate. And this 2-star, all of these 2-star dinosaurs, you get a lot of good ones. Ankylosaurus is a really good one. Crichtonsaurus is a 1-star dinosaur, but it's got to be researched, so I typically get it closer to the 2-star dinosaurs. That's a really good one. Sinoceratops is a really good one. Dilophosaurus, as I think I mentioned in a previous video, I think that is the best dinosaur in the game when it comes to being able to complete Jurassic difficulty. The only bad thing about it is that the comfort rating is at 70%, and what that means is that once it loses 30% comfort, it starts trying to break out, and but you can deal with that pretty easily. You know, just fences by itself, like electric fences, I should say, will do the job. But you put some large carnivores in there, and you get the little Dilophosaurs to panic a lot of the time, and yeah, it's pretty frequently they don't even attack a fence at all, and that's really nice. I don't take any chances though. I do research the electric fence. I do put down the electric fence. It's a lot more expensive, but again, I tend to be conservative. You know, my guess is that whoever ends up getting the ultimate world record in terms of time is probably gonna not do that. They're gonna take a shortcut. They're gonna use a regular fence and just manage, because electric is so much more expensive. And then, you know, they'll probably, whatever the final world record is going to end up being somebody who just gets lucky with no bad storms that come through there. But really, you know, you got 12 Dilophosaurs per pen. You gotta either be lucky or be right on top of it as soon as a tornado goes through that type of pen. Because, you know, getting one ACU to trank 12 Dilophosaurs, that's a nightmare. That's a nightmare scenario.
I don't know what is so unique about that dinosaur, but if people want to see it, I want to show it.
So the Sinoceratops, they're going to go with the Triceratops. And then I think a little bit later I put the Styracosaurus or Styracoceratops, I forget which one it is. The six-horned one, I put that in the same pen. And you know, all my ceratopsids are just kind of comfortable in there. They all typically have very similar requirements for grassland and forest. And they typically also have similar, you know, population max. You got your Ankylosaurus and Crichtonsaurus. They're pretty low population. The Pachycephalosaurids, they're a little bit higher than the Ankylosaurs, and then the Ceratopsians are a little bit higher than that. Then I think your Stegosaurids are a little bit higher than that. Then you got your sauropods, and you got your duckbills, and that's kind of the order. And then the, you know, the Struthiomimus, you can put feels like 1 billion of those in one pen. All right, I'm a little slow. I'm already doing the price adjustments for these new buildings to get satisfaction up, so a little bit slow to go in and save the game. But at this point, I don't know that I don't feel like I need to, because you know there'd be a tornado already coming through if there was going to be one.
I've just finished reviewing this new contract, and I think it's right up your alley. I'm sure you'll agree.
Alright, so I see the red one up there, that's stopping power. So I cancel all the others and have the Jeep go there first, and then work its way back down. This is a nice thing about having multiple scheduling upgrades, is that I can have a whole bunch of stuff. And then I realize I don't have any protection anywhere, so find the best spot to get maximum coverage for storm protection station, and decide to go ahead and put those around my park. They're not super expensive. I think they're probably worth it. But again, I mentioned this last video. I've not done any math. I don't fully understand the mechanics behind this. I just kind of at this point assume that they have a purpose, and intuitively feel like there's less damage that happens once I've got them in place than there is when I don't have them in place. So, you know, for 100K, something like that, it's not too bad. 300K plus the research cost. I forget how much it is to research, but you know, 450K to avoid having to do a whole bunch of repairs. I think that's probably worth it. The reason my power was out there is due to the repair. Every time you repair a power plant, you lose power provided for 5 seconds or something like that. It's not very long. Here's the Styracosaurus. So it was right. It is Styracosaurus, not Styracoceratops. It's one of those things where you know it until you are narrating a video, and then all of a sudden you can't quite remember which is correct. But my first instinct was right. I think those have a social limit of 2, either 2 or 3. I know the Sinoceratops is 2. I think the Styracosaurus is also 2. I think it's the Torosaurus is the one. I think it's the Torosaurus has a population minimum of 4, and it's not a particularly efficient dinosaur, and that's just not one that I would build very much of. Alright, starting to get my Velociraptor Genome. At this point, I'm still hovering around $2 million. That's a lot of money. Still, I am churning out dinosaurs, but it's typically you can continually pump out herbivores at this stage of the game and still kind of break even. It's the carnivores that cost a little bit more money. So, again, like I did the other place, I use a hotel as kind of my central area that provides some visibility, that gets the guests down to that area. And you need 7 hotels on Jurassic difficulty. I don't know about the others, but I have tried to make it work with 6. And every time I end up having 6 hotels, it just... I get right down to the end. I've got 5-star, 5-star. The last dinosaur is released, and then the population immediately jumps up. And I go from 5-star facility rating to 4.8 stars, something like that. Yeah, still got all good satisfaction. So that means that it's my hotels that are short. Now, what I did here, and this is not as efficient, but I'm not really good at drawing those fence lines around the hotel. So I use the normal fence, the cheap fence. That way, if I made any mistakes, then I could go and I could erase it, no problem. Then you'll see me in just a minute. I'll go back and I will actually add the electric fence, because there is the option to overlay. You can have the new fence replace the old fence, and you do get a little bit of a subsidy.
I'll keep this brief.
Yeah, I guess in some way they use the old fence built on top of it, or use materials again, or something.
Security and safety are 2 sides of the same coin, and you cashed it in on that contract. Way to go.
So I am running a little bit short on
This new
fossil areas, on expedition areas. Yeah, I like to stay ahead of the curve a little bit more than I am right here.
Give them credit for. How you treat them determines what they will become.
And I try to take a $10,000 photo, but no, it does not work. So usually the higher the point value, the higher the dinosaur rating, the higher the money for that particular dinosaur being in. So if you were to take a fully modded Indominus Rex, which is the highest point value dinosaur in the game, I believe,
That's a job well
you're going to
done.
get a lot more money for that picture than you are of a Struthiomimus. But here I've got a whole bunch of modded ceratopsids or ceratopsians, I don't know which is correct, and
Might not be great art,
easy
but
completion.
I like it.
Then I've got the Styracosaurus coming out. And that'll pretty much do it for my my ceratopsid pen. You do have to be a little bit careful. The Triceratops has a social max of 16, and the others are all pretty similar. And so I usually do 5 of each, or 4 of each, or something like that, or 4 to 5, and that gets me 14, 15 dinosaurs in there, and that's just go from there.
What you have there is a Styracosaurus, or spiked lizard. The reason for the name should be obvious.
Alright, Corythosaurus, not a super cost-efficient dinosaur. Better than the Edmontosaurus, but neither of the early duckbills are particularly good. Now, I like the game a lot, but if I could change one thing related to challenge mode, it would be that the dinosaurs would be random. There is a huge advantage to having the 1-star dinosaurs come about early on, and that is that they're the ones that are easy to deal with. I mean, if you started the game and implemented what I would like, which is random dinosaurs, so you don't know what dinosaurs you've got at the beginning until you actually start the game. I feel like that would be fun, but if I got, all duckbills that all need 4 or 5 social to be happy, then you're just kind of SOL at the very beginning of the game. There's not a whole lot of reason to continue. Whereas the Struthiomimus is just ridiculously cost effective, and not only is it the cheapest dinosaur in the game, but it's the most cost effective dinosaur in the game, and you get your biggest bang for the buck. And it would be harder to start in a scenario where you did not have a Struthiomimus, but I wouldn't mind having some other different dinosaurs early on. I think Chasmosaurus is one that's a pretty efficient dinosaur that I don't usually get in time to take advantage of. But because of the way that they have the research set up, where you have to research fossils, my guess is that there'd have to be some significant work before
Amazing work.
before the developers would be able to implement that type of random dinosaur toggle or something like that. And just the downside is you end up seeing the same 20 to 25 dinosaurs each game, whereas there's I think 48 in the game right now or something like that. All right, so here I did just a minute ago. I got a most combat victories mission or contract, and I usually do not like those. They are not my favorite. However, I just built this pen down there. I know I'm going to put at least one Ceratosaurus in there. And I figure what I can do is I can take 2 of my older Triceratops that would be at risk of dying before the game is over, and just feed them to that Ceratosaurus. I'll wait on the second and third Ceratosaurus until that mission's completed. And it's a little bit of free money. Triceratops is not the most efficient dinosaur in the game. Not the most cost efficient. It's kind of average, for early on. It's a little expensive overall, but the early ones that I think that I released were not quite fully modified, and so I can probably replace it and get a little bit more efficient dinosaur, and still get the contract bonus, the money, and then the celebrity rating or the combat victory rating for my first Ceratosaurus. That is not a good strategy. It's not a cost-efficient strategy to do it that way. I would not recommend that you regularly breed dinosaurs to feed them to your carnivores. You do increase your rating for the carnivores, but you only get 50% of what you put in. So, if you take a Triceratops, which is like a $5,500 per dinosaur rating, and you basically are turning that into a $1.1 million per dinosaur rate, or 1.1. I guess it'd be $11,000 per dinosaur rating increase, and that's not efficient. Even the ridiculously cost inefficient Indoraptor is still better than that. And of course, I never in Jurassic ever research enough to do the hybrid project and do Indoraptor and Indominus Rex. They're just I always have too many money issues. I need to be efficient. If I don't have money issues, then that means that I'm doing something wrong. Like I've said right now, I'm still a little bit high, but that'll go away once I 3 Ceratosaurs will knock out my my savings pretty quickly. You can see it does cost about $500,000-$600,000 to upgrade my fence here. Still probably worth it to to make sure that your Velociraptors don't go crazy. The thing I don't like about the multiple pins off of one Hammond Creation Lab is that gotta wait for dinosaurs to actually move into their pen, and I was waiting on some of those Styracosaurs to finally do that before I could release my 2 Corythosaurus and 1 Edmontosaurus, I think is what I bred. 2 Edmontosaurus.
With this animal,
that second one's not very efficient, but I think it's just a hedge against one of them getting sick and dying or something like that. It's probably not the best move. It's probably a little bit more efficiency can be eked out. by only having one Edmontosaurus. Now, Corythosaurus has a social minimum of 2, so that one you need, you're pretty much required to have 2 of.
Ourselves included.
Getting pretty close to 100% genome on my Velociraptors, and that's, you know, that's kind of my go to, you know, start breeding and put them in that bottom right. I really, if I was thinking, I would have planned ahead a little bit more. But here, this is this little nook up in the northwest corner. That's where I like to put all of my Dilophosaurs. And the game, I don't know if it's my issue or what, or if it's because I was recording through GeForce Experience, but it froze right there. When it's pretty typically when I do a bunch of tree destruction. Maybe the game secretly is a environmentalist, and they don't like me destroying the carbon soaking rainforest, but I lose a little bit and decide to go ahead and just save preemptively because I got to do some more clearing. But I think I'm pretty close to where I was before.
That was some amazing work.
Yeah, I'm a little bit farther behind. I got to do the outage protection and the improved output all over again. So I don't know, maybe lost 2 or 3 minutes, something like that. Yeah, and I got to go back and got to replace the all the fencing for that southeast pen that's going to hold the Velociraptors. I think that's the only time that the game froze on me during this playthrough. I've been pretty fortunate. You know, other than when I video record, I don't know that I've had very many crashes at all. It's just been 1 or 2 in the 4 months since the game came out. You know, I have enough of a programming background to understand that it's tough to make things perfect.
This contract looks interesting. To me, anyway. What do you think?
Check this out. A new contract.
Now that is the perfect contract right there. You get a contract, and the very moment that your contract is finished or is given to you is the moment that something happens and you tick up over that threshold. Just free money, don't have to do anything. Absolute favorite type of contract. Wish that could happen more often, but it certainly does not. Now I've got about, anytime I get over 12 dinosaurs in a pen, sometimes if I get over 8, I put a second feeder in. And, you know, that just prevents all the dinosaurs from congregating in one area. They all congregate in one area, one of them gets panicked from a helicopter flying over. They all get panicked, and then, you know, it just kind of ripples through. Yeah, as Owen Grady likes to remind me, fake Owen Grady, it's important to keep your dinosaurs well fed. Alright, so fortunately that no power message was because I had missed a link in the fence, not because I needed another power station this early. So I'm not releasing quite yet. Well, I'm not releasing the Corythosaurus because, you know, I need 2 of them in there for social reasons, and I figured I'd just go ahead and delay. And here, this is crazy. They went from 1 sick dinosaur to 3 sick dinosaurs. Well, I guess this is sabotage. That's right. This is the I think this is the sabotage by the very ungrateful security division.
This dinosaur, the Edmontosaurus, was
And that's, to
originally
me, that's
uncovered
not a
on site in
huge
Canada.
gap, but
I'll let you guess. Will.
yeah, it happens sometimes.
T-Rex thinks these are delicious. And who's to
And I
argue?
really, in all honesty, I should have been paying a little bit more attention. When you record with the GeForce Experience, you got a little green button that shows you that you're recording, and it's down in the bottom right hand corner, and it covers up the last little bit of that security division bar, the progress bar. So that'll be my excuse as to why I had sabotage there. I think I had sabotage later in the game, and that was my own fault. There's no real good excuse. Although there's really not very much of an excuse for this even. I mentioned it in other videos, but I'll repeat it. Anytime I've got these, facilities, I had a contract to build a gift shop. That's why there's a gift shop down there. I don't use gift shop other than maybe one at the very beginning of the game, unless I get a contract. So, yeah, this sickness is just
Understood.
running rampant. But as I was saying,
Additional task.
what I typically do is all of the kind of the more advanced facility buildings, which is the restaurant provides food and drink, the clothes shop provides shopping, the arcade provides fun. All of them can hold 1,200 people. I believe it's 1,200 people. And I set those prices at $50. That seems to be the inflection point. If it's 49 or 51, it's close enough. It's, sometimes I just can't be bothered to get it exactly right, but right around that point. The earlier ones like fast food, toy shop falls into this, gift shop. They have max capacity of I think 900 people, and I set the price, the max price there at $40. That seems to be the inflection point. Then the gyrosphere, I forget where it maxes out. It might be 800 people. I set the price there at I think $35. I think that's the
Really see chaos.
that's the best option.
Think of all the combinations and patterns life tries out, looking for that perfect structure. It's not about success. Life is about refining failure over and over and over again.
I hate how when you're driving around and you're facing a target and then you go to shoot and it's pretty much backwards. You've got to turn around. So I thought for a moment that just 2 shots would be enough to cure it, and I actually don't think that's true, and then I got to take a little bit longer shot. But the third one should do it. Struthiomimus only takes 1 shot.
New objective.
The more disease. The duckbills I think take 2 shots. The Triceratops takes 3. I don't remember, but I think the sauropods take a little bit more. Now I got my Edmontosaurus photo. That makes my previously unhappy security division a little bit more happy.
Request acknowledged.
And I got to send my ranger team all the way down there. So here I do add a second one, and I send both of them to cure the same dinosaur. And my thought is that by the time they get down there, the disease will have spread a little bit. So I might as well.
Even a full plate has room for a little more, don't you think? So why
Here's
not
another
use new
guest shelter
contracts
coverage to
alongside
100%. That's just very finicky. You remember I had trouble with that before in the last video. Here I'm going to just go ahead and try it again. I realize I do need a guest shelter down there. It does help guests stay safe. And when you've got tornadoes breaking out fences, the carnivores actually are not quite as bad. If they hurt people, it's going to be 1 or 2 dead people. Boy, that sounds callous, doesn't it? If a Triceratops or something like that gets out, then they just go charging through crowds, and your injuries can actually pile up a whole lot faster. At this point, I'm pretty glad that I got that second ranger team out, because the sickness has started to spread. That's one of the things. The very first time I played Jurassic difficulty, I was surprised at just how bad sickness was. Because, you know, you play campaign mode and you got a dinosaur who gets sick and you just send the guy over there and takes care of it. And maybe it goes to a second one, but, you know, it's usually just not that big of a deal. But Jurassic, boy, you got to stay on top of it, or you got to immediately get your rangers to stay on top of it and then constantly modify them. And, you know, it's not infrequent for me to have to, you know, spend several minutes constantly having the ranger add new targets to cure dinosaurs, and yeah, it's just all kind of part and parcel. So I was trying to get this last little guy out, but then that other one was walking towards the door, and I figure I'm not even going to waste my time. Just close the door, I'll get the ACU up, I'll trank that one Struthy, and, you know, ship him back airmail.
Understood.
Now, I am pretty close to 2 stars, so it's not going to take very much once I get the Ceratosaurus out to finally get to 2 stars. And here I'm selecting my my victims. I've had this combat victory. I probably should have just gotten rid of the combat victory contract a long time ago, but one of the things that's hard to overcome is you get it and you say, oh, that's possible, you know, I can complete that, and then you start working towards it, but you don't realize how long it's going to take.
A carnivore, I see. This time, a Ceratosaurus. There are distinctive spines that run down its back, and a
So
bladed
I'm
horn
going
on its
to
head.
lift
Just what
the
you don't want to run
2
into when you're out
Triceratops
there
in
alone.
there. I don't put any food in there. If they get a little bit weak in terms of health because they go hungry, they're gonna, you know, they're just meals for the Ceratosaurus anyways. So, you know, I don't. That doesn't really bother me too much.
Task received. Confirmed.
All that clicking on the different sick dinosaurs is to make sure that everybody's loaded up with a task, but they, you know, they all have got different
Transit has commenced.
different targets, so they're not shooting at the same animal in turn. They're all shooting at different
You've
ones.
done some impressive work, and I thought I was the only competent one around here.
So whenever I have small carnivores and large carnivores, really whenever I have a lot of dinosaurs, but especially in this scenario, you know, the raptors get really freaked out by the ceratosaurs, and there's only 2 raptors for every 1 ceratosaur, which means it's pretty easy for the ceratosaurs to constantly bug the raptors again and again and again and again, which is why I've got, you know, kind of pretty far away from each other these 2 little watering holes, and I've got only the 1 feeder right now. I do put a second feeder in once I get the velociraptors in there. Now this is always frustrating. I incubated a velociraptor and I went immediately to incubate 2 other velociraptors, but I got to 100% genome dinosaur, and you can see the velociraptor and triceratops are right next to each other. That bumped the velociraptor 1 to the right, and when I went to re-click, I went too fast. I did not notice that I had another dinosaur that was 100% genome, and I ended up incubating 2 triceratops when that's the last thing I wanted to do. I wanted 2 velociraptors, but oh well. I end up releasing the 2, figuring that, yeah, they'll just replace the 2 that I flew down to the carnivore pen to be food, and that's that. Later in the game, though, I get a contract to breed 3 more triceratops, and I do that, and I forget that there is a social max of 6 for the triceratops, and you'll see a little bit later, probably in the next video, how that causes me some issues. Another unforced error. So even though I do think 4 hours 47 minutes is a very good time, there's lots of room for me to improve, and lots of room for other people to watch this, and you know, who might be better players than myself, and they can learn from what I do well and avoid what I do poorly.
Transportation complete.
So I never understand why food, it shows that that hotel has a high demand for food and a higher demand for drink. But I've got the restaurant right there. Sometimes it just does not make sense. Usually you go and you figure it out and you realize that something's wrong. You don't have enough staff somewhere or what. You know, I don't understand all of the ins and outs, but I do. I know I'm getting close to 2 stars, so I lower the prices and figure that lowering the prices temporarily, that's going to, you know, that's going to increase my facility rating and bump me up over 2 stars, and that of course unlocks all of the additional, you know, all the additional expeditions. You can see I'm down to just 3 that have fossils at this point. So I really need to get to that next star in order to keep going. I think I was a little bit slow going from 1 to 2 stars, but here I go. I immediately jump up over 2 and then immediately fall back down and adjust my prices. Once I've unlocked everything, you know, then I go back to making sure I earn full money. And that is pretty much it. I am now over 2 stars, so I'm going to save the game, and I will pick it up in a future video. All right, thank you all very much.